Okay, this is going to be a controversial video, but I couldn't care less. As I've said previously, I don't do political correctness in my videos, and whilst I never go out of my way to offend people, nor do I censor myself. This is about the boxer Muhammad Ali, and I'm going to argue in this video why I think something of a personality cult has developed around him. And I'm going to try and be as objective as possible in the video, so I will ask that if you're skeptical, please watch it the whole way through. I promise I won't ramble on forever, but please do watch it the whole way through, and then leave comments if you want. But I think it needs to be said, because there is a sort of attitude towards this man that is, I think, how can I put it, almost like you cannot say anything against him. When I say it's a personality cult, what I mean is people act like this man is some sort of a living god, like he is beyond reproach, and I really feel uncomfortable with that sort of attitude towards anybody, actually, anybody. But particularly towards Muhammad Ali, because frankly I don't think he deserves quite as much admiration as he gets, and I'm going to explain why. Now, before you sort of thumb down this video or attack me, this is not a hate video. There are a lot of things about Muhammad Ali I like, but there are also a lot of things I dislike. And I would ask that you watch the whole thing. Okay, so I'll get straight to it. What's prompted me to make this is there's yet another film has been made about Muhammad Ali. It's a biographical film called I Am Ali, and from what I gather from the trailer, it's using excerpts from interviews, family interviews, that sort of thing. I'm sure it'll be an interesting film, but I wonder, do we really need another Muhammad Ali film? I mean, there was the big film in 2001, the Michael Mann film with Will Smith. There was then there were When We Were Kings, was about the Rumble in the Jungle, and there's been numerous other documentary films made about Muhammad Ali. Now, to my knowledge, there's never been a film about Joe Louis or Sugar Ray Robinson. Both arguably can vie for Muhammad Ali as the greatest boxer of all time. First, I'm going to break this into two parts. Ali is a boxer and Ali is a person. Firstly, Ali is a boxer. Now, I don't think Ali is overrated. I think he is a truly great fighter. Exceptional. And I don't think that's an exaggeration. Ali faced the biggest names of his day in arguably the biggest era of heavyweight boxing. His record wasn't perfect, but he has a pretty good winning streak. And he defeated some world-class fighters, guys like Joe Frazier, George Foreman. Remember, in the Foreman fight he was an underdog. It's important to remember that. Ali had an athletic style that was incredible, especially for a heavyweight. And the saying, floated like a butterfly, stings like a bee, was very apt. It wasn't just a saying, that is truly Ali's style. So as a sportsman, as an athlete, I have no doubt that Muhammad Ali was one of the very best ever, and very arguably the best heavyweight ever. Was he the best boxer ever? I'm not sure about that. Pound for pound, I'm not sure if he's greater than Sugar Ray Robinson. In fact, Ali himself said that he believed he was the greatest heavyweight, but he believed that Sugar Ray Robinson was the greatest boxer. So I don't really have a problem with people saying that Ali was the greatest boxer, because I think he's a strong candidate. Hell, I have a poster of him. If anything, that should show. That's from the Thriller and Manila fight. If anything, that should show that I'm not a hater, so to speak. So as a boxer, there's no question about it. Ali is world class. He's always going to be in that very elite group of fighters who are considered among the best ever. I don't think you can ever absolutely 100% say that any fighter is the greatest ever, because both Ali and Sugar Ray Robinson and Joe Louis, for that matter, lost fights. So you can't say 100% that any fighter is absolutely perfect, because that is not the case. And you could, pick and choose and say that his final fights weren't great. Of course, he went beyond his time. That was one of his big flaws. He fought far too long. And also another thing, I don't want people to think that this is sort of a disrespectful video, because obviously because of the health problems he's had since he's retired. I don't want people to see it as disrespectful in that sense. But I do think it is important to talk about this, because there is an attitude towards this man that is really, I do think it's sycophantic. And especially among boxing fans, it's almost blasphemy if you say anything. And that is clearly bullshit. It's a bullshit environment to have, when you cannot simply have an opinion without someone's, without getting firewalled by people simply for having an opinion. Now, I can understand if someone was saying something really disrespectful, but everything I am saying in this video is based on evidence and facts. So as an athlete, I have no problem with people praising Muhammad Ali. He was a great athlete, no question about it. I'm talking in terms of skill. Now, as a human being, this is where I have a problem. People act like this man is like Nelson Mandela, like he's beyond reproach. Well, even Mandela is not beyond reproach. I don't think anyone is. But I really have a problem with the sort of attitude that people have towards Muhammad Ali, like he's this great figure of benevolence and peace and goodwill among men. Look at his track record. Just look at his track record. Now, people will no doubt come back and say, oh, but you need to look at the environment in which Ali was saying those things, i.e. the 1970s and 1960s. Well, that's true. You do need to look at the context of the time. But even allowing for that, it doesn't excuse some of the things that Ali came out with. There is no escaping the fact that Muhammad Ali held some very racist attitudes in the 60s and 70s. Now, people could argue, as a black man, he had a right to hold those attitudes because his people, so to speak, were being downtrodden. But consider this. Among one of his main targets was another black man, Joe Frazier. Now, the way Ali treated Frazier was nothing short of shameful. When Ali was stripped of his title for refusing the draft, which arguably was a noble move, he was doing that based on conviction. That was, in its own way, a brave thing to do. Frazier actually tried to help him out financially and in order to get him a title fight and so on. How did Ali thank him? By calling him an Uncle Tom, stooge to the white establishment, this sort of thing. Also, Ali introduced, or at least popularised, I wouldn't say he introduced it, but he did certainly popularise the trend of trash-talking opponents. Now, in my opinion, that has went way too far. So that is not a good legacy of Muhammad Ali. In fact, he introduced this trend of trash-talking among fighters that arguably has went way too far. You do have guys like Manny Pacquiao and Vladimir Klitschko and others who are trying to bring, or who have brought respect back into the sport, but I would argue that is not a good legacy. People seem to conveniently ignore that fact. Also, look at Muhammad Ali's radical political activities in the 70s, joining the Nation of Islam, for example, which, there's no way to gloss it over, was a black supremacist organisation. And by the way, I don't give a shit if people are watching this and say, oh, you're a white guy, you can't have an opinion. I can have an opinion, and this is my opinion. Muhammad Ali had a choice. He chose to join that organisation. There were many black fighters at that time who didn't. And in my opinion, they were just as divisive as the white racists. Okay, you could argue they were a response to the white racists, but anyone who rationally thinks that the Nation of Islam and their kind, and by their kind I'm talking about radical groups, anyone who thinks that they've done anything positive for American society is deluded. Ali joined those organisations, and to my knowledge he has never, ever expressed any sort of remorse for doing so. He's never said he's regretted doing that, or he was younger and it was a mistake, anything like that. He has never expressed remorse. That can only indicate he still holds some of those views. Now, I appreciate the fact that in recent years, i.e. the 90s, 90s and 2010s, Ali's been a lot more of a unifying figure. He's been, he's he hasn't been openly racist. He's socialized with white people and so on. But if you just need to look at the opinions of some Muhammad Ali fans, and they're outright black supremacists. And by the way, not just against white people, against Asians and Hispanics as well. So there is no doubt about it. There is an element of Muhammad Ali supporters who are basically black supremacists. I suppose the same argument could be made. There's probably a small core group of Rocky Marciano supporters who are Italian supremacists and so on. But I just really have a difficulty with people glorifying and idolizing this man as a great human being. I think he done some brave things. He stood by his conviction because he believed the war in Vietnam was morally wrong. And I have to commend anyone who stands by their conviction, especially at a time when it wasn't particularly easy to do so. So I do commend him for that. But I cannot accept the fact that he joined those radical groups and he's never expressed remorse for it. Now, white liberals will say that I'm an idiot and I don't understand American history and so on. I do understand American history. I'm fully aware of the civil rights movement and the context of the time. I'm fully aware of that. But my argument is those groups done nothing to progress American society. They may well have been a response to white supremacist thinking, but they themselves were not particularly progressive. Also, Ali's attitude to women in those days was very misogynistic. He may have moderated since then, but the fact of the matter is this was when Muhammad Ali was an active professional boxer. He was in a position of responsibility. Now, the Vietnam thing, I think that was a matter of conviction. But there's other attitudes he held which were basically contradictory to all of those who think he was some sort of revolutionary. In fact, in many ways he was very conservative in his thinking. For example, he took issue with girlfriends turning up at his fights if he disapproved of what they were wearing, and those sort of misogynistic attitudes. His fans conveniently seem to overlook those facts. Now, I just have a problem with this idolization of Muhammad Ali. And I don't know if it's because people feel sorry for the fact that his health isn't great these days. And that's not being disrespectful, that's just the way it is. But I'm so tired of the sycophantic attitude to him. And by the way, I would say this about anybody. It's not just because I'm not a particular fan of Muhammad Ali. I would say it even about people I admire. I would say it about Manny Pacquiao and Vladimir Klitschko. Those are guys I like a lot better in terms of personality than Muhammad Ali. But I wouldn't say that they're perfect. I have their faults, I'm sure. So the problem I have with a lot of Ali fans is they literally act like he is faultless, like he's a living god, and it really pisses me off. Because actually what they're doing is they're dehumanizing him when they do that. It's a bit like hardcore John Lennon fans, or hardcore Elvis fans, or you name it. When you get someone who's that famous, you do get this hardcore group of fans who just cannot get it into their head that their idol is a human being and not above reproach. So why can't these people just accept that, okay, I can see them making arguments, compelling arguments, for Muhammad Ali being great. Definitely as a sportsman, okay, maybe as a person. But what I cannot accept is them idolizing him to a point where he is like a marble man, above reproach. It's bullshit. It's complete bullshit. Just look at Ali's track record, and he is not as squeaky clean as people make him out to be. I mean, his attitude to his opponents, completely disrespectful. I don't think he ever respected any opponent until after the fight, which is not that different from the behaviour of certain fighters today, who, by the way, people say, oh, that fighter's a thug and a trash talker and discredits the sport and so on. Well, what is different between what they're doing and what Ali done? Not really much difference, except Ali was arguably a much better fighter. But he began that culture of trash talking, which, in my opinion, has not benefited the sport. Now, this is not about discrediting Ali as a fighter. Again, I cannot emphasize enough, he was a great, great, great fighter. And probably the greatest heavyweight. But let's stop pretending that Muhammad Ali was a perfect person. He was not. Very far from perfect. He did hold racist attitudes. He did have misogynistic attitudes. And he did begin the culture of trash talking. Or at least he popularized that. So I really wish people would stop worshipping this man. Admire him, okay, I can accept that. But what I can't accept is the sycophantic worship of Muhammad Ali. My goodness, it's pathetic.